Happy midday, everyone. I'm Justin. Welcome to the Midday Show. And this is This Week in History. On Monday, September 17th, 1916, Germany's Red Baron won his first aerial combat. On Tuesday, September 18th, 1830, Tom Thumb, the first locomotive built in the United States, lost a 9-mile race to a Maryland racehorse. On Wednesday, September 19th, in 1783, the first hot air balloon was set up in France with animal passengers including a sheep, a rooster, and a duck. On Thursday, September 20th, in 1952, scientists confirmed that DNA holds hereditary data. And on Friday, September 21st, 1991, Armenia is granted independence from the USSR. Now to Movie Misfits.
Welcome back to this week's episode of Movie Misfits. On this week's episode, we are talking about a movie called The Greatest Showman, which came out in theaters in April 10th, 2018, and was filmed in 2017. This movie's cast consists of Hugh Jackson, Zac Efron, Rebecca Ferguson, and Zendaya. This movie had a 56% tomato meter on Rotten Tomatoes and 87% approval rating. Alright, due to movie magic, I have lost my iPad, but Wheeler and Carlisle in the movie The Greatest Showman were not actually in love. It was just made up by Disney and something that Disney did to keep the story going. And P.T. Barnum did go with the girl, but never had a love affair with her. P.T. Barnum's circus did actually burn down in real life, so Disney did get that one correct. One final note to say before we wrap up this week's Movie Misfits. After 146 years, Barnum and Bailey's Circus has come to an end on May 21st, 2017. Thanks for watching, guys. Tune in next week on this episode of Movie Misfits.
Welcome to Weekly Fails. I'm Sarah Bartlett.
And I'm Gina Politis. We're here to share with you all our failures of this week. So I hear the list was fairly long this week, Sarah. Care to share?
Yes. All right. It all started when I was vacuuming this week, okay? And in my house, like when we emptied the vacuum, we put it all in like a grocery bag and like tie it shut to like keep it all contained. So I went to empty the vacuum into the bag, right? And as I like stepped away to put the container like back on the vacuum, my foot like somehow got hung in the handle of the bag, and I kind of spilled all the dirt over the floor. I just vacuumed. So that was fun. Then I was at the hair salon like waiting for my sister to finish up, and this like really sweet old lady like sat next to me, and she started talking to me, you know, like old ladies do, and she's like, oh, you know, like, why are you here? And I was like, oh, I'm waiting for my sister, you know, and we're, like, having this conversation and asking each other questions and stuff, and I was like, oh, you know, like, do you have any siblings? And her face just, like, completely changed, and she was like, they're all dead. And I was like, oh, my God, like, what do I say? Like, what would you have said? Like, you can't, there's, like, no good response to that, because it's just, like, I don't know, it was very dark, and it was just weird, and it's really embarrassing, because I thought that she'd say something, like, I don't know, like, from the past, like, oh, I had like 2 sisters. Like, I didn't mean like that exact moment. I meant like in life. So it was bad.
It sounds pretty bad. I've had some pretty embarrassing moments this week as well. So first, in my 4th period class, we were going around answering this one question, and we were like sharing to the class our questions. And I noticed that everyone in the class had the opposite answer as me, but I was like, no, I'm right. Like, I know I'm right, so I'm gonna share my answer anyway. And then when it got to my turn and I told everyone like what I had written down, my teacher decided to point out the fact that I had the opposite answer as everyone else, and everyone started laughing, and I was so embarrassed. But like, I wasn't a coward. I wasn't gonna chicken out and not read my answer because I knew I was right. And then he didn't even tell me if I was right or not, which made me pretty bitter. But anyway, then I went to tennis the one day, and I had a match and I played doubles with my friend Hannah. And there was one particular point that was an absolute failure, but we still managed to get it in. So first, like, they had hit it over to me, and I was like right about to hit it, but Hannah ran in front of me without any warning and smashed it back. But then they lobbed it over to me, and I hit it, but like it hit the complete wrong part of my racket and managed to just go over the net. And it was pretty sick. But has anything ever happened to you like that? Something that was stressful, but it worked out in the end this week, perhaps?
Yeah. Okay, so engineering caused me some unnecessary stress this week. Unnecessary stress from this man. Okay, so we had an engineering test, and we had to memorize like 20 different buildings, right?
Yeah.
Like in chronological order, like when they were built, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah, I know what you
seems
mean.
simple enough, right?
Seems
It's like,
pretty
oh,
simple.
great, yeah. So then I went to class, and they only had like 16 on the board. And I was like, well, what about the other 4? You know, like where do those fall in, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's like, oh, you know, like just enter in the 4. And I was like, oh, okay, like that's great. And then I left class, you know, and I was looking up like when they were built, and some of the buildings were so old that there was like huge time spans of when they could have been built, and the time spans like overlapped each other. So I was like, man, like where do I put these? Like I don't know what to do. Like I don't want to study the wrong thing. So I stressed out the entire rest of the day, like for hours, trying to figure out what went where so that I'd do well on this stupid test, okay? And then at the end of the day, I decided to go down to his room for him to check my list to make sure, like for a fact, it was right. And he's like, oh, just worry about the 16. You don't need to put in the other 4. Like what? Like, I just spent like hours just like having a mental breakdown here trying to get this test like correct. So it's just unnecessary, okay? Unnecessary. And it was.
I haven't had a lot of like stressful moments, but I've had some pretty embarrassing moments. So last week, or I guess 2 weeks ago, my very mean TV and video teacher decided to make us do a live show. And I embarrassed myself while telling an embarrassing story. You see, that takes skill.
That's talent. That's definitely talent.
I was trying to tell this story about how I left my iPad in piano class, but instead I said this. I forgot my piano in English, and I didn't even know what to say after that. It all just went downhill. I started stumbling, and it was awful.
Sorry, that was really funny. It was a good time. That's all we have for this week. Thanks for watching Weekly Fails with us. I'm Sarah Bartlett.
And I'm Gina Politis. We'll see you next week for many more failures.